well, bad things should have been happening, such as sanctions, such as weapons flows to the Ukrainians, and they have not. And really, the world is watching to see if Donald Trump is ever going to get tough with Putin, something that he's not seemingly wanted to do previously. There's a sanctions package sitting in the Senate that apparently is veto-proof that would put 500% tariffs on countries that essentially trade in Russian oil and gas. There's also the possibility of more weapon shipments. We could allow the Europeans to transfer kind of U.S. kit to the Ukrainians. We could actually sell weapons to the Ukrainians as well. But all of this is just right now just a little bit tougher talk from Trump, but he hasn't done anything yet. And one of the things, Chris, I think we should understand is there's a lot of GOP angst over this. There are hawks within the Republican Party. Do they really want to be complicit in what is happening now, this inaction and watching Ukraine just getting pounded day after day?
And The Economist, Mark, is reporting on a change in Russia's war strategy. Quote, a year ago, for 30 drones to strike Ukraine in a single night would be exceptional. Now Russia is saturating Ukraine's air defenses with hundreds of them. On Sunday, 298 drones and 69 missiles were fired into Ukraine.
My God.
Ukraine says it has documents suggesting Russia intends to ramp up its drone production to 500 a day from 300 a month ago.
My God.
Or a year ago. How long
And they
can
still talk
Ukraine
out of both sides of their
continue
mouth
defend
pertaining to
against this? And,
peace.
I mean, from a war standpoint, how urgent is it if Trump is going to do something to do it fast?
Well, right, Chris, and it's all about air defense right now. So what would help Ukraine tremendously is additional Patriot missile systems. This is the air defense system that has been extremely effective. They're running very low.
That they've been begging for from day one. From
Reluctant
day one.
to provide more. The Pentagon certainly believes they need them for the Indo-Pacific. Some of our allies have them, and they've been reluctant as well to transfer them. But it could be done if we deem it a necessity, and this would help in what is these attacks, not only, of course, by these drones, the Shahed drones, but also ballistic missiles as well. Now, on the battlefield itself, we don't see large swaths of territory being lost. The Russians are making some moves. The Ukrainians have been really ingenious in producing their own short-range drones, which, in essence, allow for the lines to be stable. But this has a lot to do right now with just, in essence, terrorism. This is Russian attacks on Ukrainian civilians. It is terrible.
No ifs and buts about
it. In
it.
terms of the battlefield itself, I don't think as important. But again, the Ukrainians need U.S. kit. They need Europeans to step up. If there's any time where you need, sanctions to the max and arming Ukraine to the teeth, it's right now.
I mean, you mentioned ballistic missiles in addition to the drones, many of those ballistic missiles from North Korea. And there's this new generation of drones that it relies on AI, not GPS, and that makes them immune to jamming and other electronic warfare, as I understand it. At least that's what Ukrainian engineers say. The war today is being fought differently, right? It's a different war from the one that started 3 years ago. What does that mean?
Well, it's absolutely remarkable. There's so much kind of in the national security
It's
world
evolving.
being discussed on this, is how the nature of warfare has changed. Again, drones are basically everything. And as I just mentioned before, the Ukrainians' ability to indigenously produce these short-range drones has proved very effective. Of course, the Russians are very adept at using the drones as well. Chris, the U.S. military is looking at this very, very closely because, the future of warfare is being fought on a land war in Europe, and everyone is learning lessons. And don't forget, what the U.S., the National Defense Strategy always looks at is a future war with China over Taiwan. So many lessons are being learned on the battlefields of Europe.
Mark Polymeropoulos, thank you. Today, a new American-backed effort to get aid into Gaza is generating some controversy. It comes after Israel lifted an 11-week-long blockade. NBC's Matt Bradley has more from Tel Aviv for us. Matt?
So we're seeing today the maiden effort of an American-backed aid distribution plan in the Gaza Strip. This has been spearheaded by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which has come under a lot of media scrutiny over the past couple of weeks. It has been seen by other aid organizations and international advocacy group as essentially a front, an American-backed front, for the Israeli government. And its origins are murky, and just this Sunday, its chief executive actually resigned, which also ramped up speculation. He resigned saying that by participating in the group's effort to distribute aid to the Gaza Strip, that he would be sacrificing, essentially he said this, his independence as a humanitarian. So that has heaped more skepticism and scrutiny
My
on this
God.
aid organization, but nonetheless, we're hearing that it has gone ahead and is now distributing aid into the Gaza Strip through
That's
4
good.
different access points. And we actually just heard from
That's
our own
good.
team in the Gaza Strip. They said that at one of these points, in the Morag corridor, which is in the southern part of the Gaza Strip, that hungry Gazans flooded around the distribution area and essentially looted it, and that the Americans who were manning it and trying to distribute food simply ran away, and that Israeli Air Force troops came in and controlled the crowd. They called this the first failure of this new effort by the Americans to distribute aid. Now, I can tell you that the aid that it
You see, whenever people are starving to death, they're willing to do anything, especially at the point that death actually looks more favorable to them than to continue to keep suffering. That's the aspect of reality that I don't think that the vast majority of the people over here in America, especially our Pentagon, the CIA, has yet to fully engulf in just exactly how serious that this situation is over there. And whenever it reaches this level of despair, if it was me and I was going through such suffering, I don't care how many psychiatrists over here that want to say, well, you got a mental problem, you got a mental illness because you're contemplating suicide. As far as I'm concerned, those are the people that need to go to the psychiatric ward and be studied, because whenever people are going through such anguish, raw, barbaric, cruel anguish, if it was them, they would be wishing the very same things. So whenever it comes to the 2-tier or 3-tier justice system, it's not just about the justice system, it's about the reality system. It's about the things that we have been taught that are incorrect, that based upon various circumstances are incorrect because of what we have been taught. And that's the reality that a lot of your military political forces has yet to grasp in the severity of just exactly what's going on and how severe that it truly is. And it's basically going to reach that level eventually over in Ukraine, if it hadn't already, and with the Russian people pertaining to their suffering that their oligarchs has placed upon their lives too as well. You see, the American people don't have a problem in the citizens of Russia. The American people pertaining to our government has problems with their government of the way that they handle their activities, not only with the world but with their own people. And whenever we see such heinous, barbaric acts of what we're seeing today, where a group of people says one thing out of one side of their mouths but does something completely, totally different, we need to quit listening to the things that are being said and start paying more attention to the things that are being done pertaining to the Russian-Ukraine war. Period. Because they'll say anything to comfort the ears of the gullible. They'll say anything. Well, in the meantime, they're getting stronger. They're sneaking up. They're doing this. They're doing that. In one way, they're getting stronger. In another way, they're actually becoming more weaker, because what they're doing, they're eliminating their best pertaining to their forces, and now they have went up in their age limit of 18 to 25 to now 25 to 35, and eventually they'll go from 25 to 45, and eventually 45 to 65. Well, whenever you have 65-year-old men out there fighting on the front lines, the quality of your war has just been diminished twice, if not 3 times lower than what it was whenever you first had your men up there. So what's next? Women and children? Are they going to put women and children on the front lines towards fighting their wars for them? That's what I'm saying. It's bad leadership pertaining to President Putin that has brought this anguish upon to his own people in trying to bring anguish upon to the Ukrainians. And in actuality, he's basically cutting his own throat, or cutting his own people's throat. And until the people over in Russia realizes that and moves up onto that, and I'm talking about the people right now that are in charge of the guns, that are in charge of the bullets, that are in charge of the missiles, that are in charge of various institutions, until they're willing to resist the oligarchs over there, it's only going to continue to get worse. And that's what Biden should have realized from day one, that he was not dealing with a bunch of goat herders over there. He was dealing with a rootless group of people going all the way back to the Viking Wars and going all the way back to, I forgot now what the guy's name was that was such of a good warrior over there in that area back, I guess, 1,000+ years ago. It's sickening. And to think that the American people has been lured into this way is even twice as sickening. It's sad. Good luck to all of us. God bless America. God bless our troops. God bless the United States of America towards our endeavors, towards which way we go from this moment on, here a day after Memorial Day, here in America, year 2025. God bless. Heaven help us all, and shalom.